Thank you for your question. I don't mind talking about my detransition. Technically, I've really detransitioned more than once. When the general public hears the term detransition, especially now, they associate it with a very small demographic of our community that detransitions because they regret their transition. This is incredibly rare. Detransitioning is actually not a common occurrence, which is why, I get a lot of questions and stuff about it because it's kind of like a shocking topic. It's especially rare for trans men, with only 4% of trans men detransitioning. But the wild thing is that 62% of the people that detransition for reasons other than regretting their transition. This is important to emphasize because the reality is there are trans people like me out there who have transitioned, detransitioned, retransitioned. Some people detransition to secure employment. Sometimes they have to do it to appease family, religious stuff, safety issues. It's very uncommon that the reason just is they regret their transition. So when I talk about my detransition, typically I'm referring to when I detransitioned after I had already medically transitioned. In these photos, I had already had top surgery. I had been on hormones for 3 years. That was my most major detransition because I had been living as male for so long. But really, I detransitioned like 10 years before that. So this is me when I was in high school. I would just imagine I was probably like 15 years old. And this is me when I was 16 through 17. I started dressing as male. I just told people I was a masculine lesbian. I knew this wasn't true because I still liked dudes. Something ain't right here, but I just rolled with it because I got to dress how I want, like act how I want, present myself how I wanted. I grew up very religious. My parents are both very Catholic. Now, my parents weren't unsupportive or anything. They just didn't really know how to deal with it, and they still really don't. We're very close, but me being trans is just something we don't talk about much, and honestly, I prefer it that way. But during this time, my mom, she really didn't know where to go to get me support because I live in a very rural town. It's very small. So she would take me into the city to a support group for LGBT people. And this was the first time I met a trans person. And to me, this was like unreal because like I didn't even think that was an option. So I started like sort of like adopting male pronouns, like, just like online and stuff like that. A lot of people would think I was a guy and I just let them go with it. If I could live as male in certain situations, I would. But as I said, I was very religious and I struggled severely with that. I was just riddled with thoughts about how like I was definitely hellbound. Like, I was giving up a glorious afterlife for a measly, however many years on earth. So I detransitioned. And it was a struggle. Anybody who's close to me, they call me a chameleon. And the reason they called me that is because I felt so uncomfortable presenting as a woman that I literally would look different every single week. Every single week I would look different because I was trying any look, any aesthetic, any behavior, anything to feel okay as a woman. And every time I say that, there's people out there that say there's no one right way to be a woman. That is so true, and that's especially true when you're not a woman. Okay, I tried everything to feel all right. I tried being a masculine lesbian. I tried every way in the world to present as a woman. I never ever felt okay. And one thing I think that is so interesting to me, okay, is that you can actually see over the years my progression in trying to appear as what society deems as like traditionally attractive for women, because since I didn't know how to feel okay, I had a goal that I needed to find a way to look the most desirable to the majority of men, because my goal was just to get married and have a traditional life. So this is me like right after my detransition. Then I started losing weight. I started growing out my hair. Finally, I achieved what got me the most male attention, which surprisingly, by the way, is 165 pounds. Because I did go through, like I say, my Fiona Apple phase, and I'm just saying, a lot of men like little junk. I tested the theory. So yeah, throughout the years, I dealt with a lot of other issues that honestly came above gender dysphoria. I think that a lot of issues I dealt with, honestly, were because of that. I just kept it quiet for a long time. I would try to kind of keep it a secret that I did present as male or masculine for a long time. I didn't want people to know that because I found it embarrassing. I also had to keep it quiet when I met my son's father, who I was with for years. He didn't want people knowing about it because he just, I think it was probably embarrassing to him. Fun fact, so years later, he fought me in court over the fact that I'm trans and I'm married to a guy. He actually like paired up with a local church, and his position was that I was going to be a bad influence on our son, who I've always had main custody of, and I am a great parent. And a big part of that was that he tried to play it off like, this is a new thing, it's a phase and all this. But part of my evidence in court was that I had a picture of myself when I was 16 or 17 years old, and I had this specific polo on. When I met my son's father, I gave him like tons of my clothes that I wore as a guy, and he wore them. And then I had a picture of him in the same exact shirt that I was wearing. So like he couldn't deny that he knew about my gender identity issues. People are wild. So I tried living as a woman for a long time. It wasn't until I started like waking up feeling physically sick every morning that I was like, you know what, I just gotta do it. I'm gonna transition. At that point, it was like so funny, like in an ironic way, because I was so scared of transitioning because of what other people thought. And at that point, I was literally losing my fucking marbles. And like, I'm sure other people saw that. And it was just funny that I felt like absolutely losing my shit would appear more healthy than just being myself, even if some people didn't completely agree with it. So I started testosterone. I got top surgery. Unfortunately, 3 years in, I went to the hospital for something not related to my transition, and I found out that my liver was starting to fail. I tried everything to stay on testosterone. I tried cycling it. Obviously this was all under a physician's care. We tried doing it lower doses and then going back up, or just staying at a lower dose. Nothing worked. My liver just was not responding well, and I just made the decision as a parent, it wasn't worth it. It was rough. It was hard on so many levels. First of all, I was nervous because I felt like every day I was going to look in the mirror and my changes were going to start reverting, and I was really nervous about how it would be going into society like that. I was really scared. I live in a really rural area, so I was nervous, like how are people going to react? Like, how's that going to go? I was also scared because, like I said, I had gotten top surgery and I chose to leave some fat in my chest because I'm bigger, but I was nervous because I was like, oh my God, is my chest going to regrow? Like what is going to happen? And the thing is being a trans man in general, we're so underrepresented, especially in the medical field, that finding information on situations like this is almost impossible. So I was just in the dark. I had no idea what was going to happen. So my thinking was, I'm going to try to detransition. I'm going to try to present feminine, because at least when I go out in society, people will just view me as a woman. They won't like clock me as a trans man. Like, I don't have to worry about that. I felt like it would be safer, and I knew that it was going to be grueling mentally. I knew that. So I had already had like a mental health team like set up and everything. And I felt like, well, at least if my gender dysphoria gets really bad, I can reach out to them. I have support in place. I just felt like it was the most viable plan at that moment. So I only lasted during this time frame for a month and a half, and it was hard. My husband and I were together at the time, and it was rough, on our relationship too, because I wasn't happy. Not with him, but like my current state. Like, I wasn't in a happy place. I was very guarded. I wasn't as bubbly as I am. Actually, I have a clip of me back then. If you've been following me for a while, I had to detransition for health reasons. You know how I am. I'm a generally happy person, and I wasn't. A lot of people ask me, like, was he still attracted to you then? Because my husband likes dudes. Honestly, that wasn't an issue at all. Like, it didn't affect our intimate life, nothing like that. But it affected other things. Like, I felt really insecure. I was really depressed, and I could be really angry at times because I was pissed off. I was so pissed, you know what I mean? So yeah, I lasted a month and a half. And then I couldn't do it anymore. And I retransitioned back, and now I live as male. And sometimes people will ask me, like, do you ever think you'll detransition again? My answer will always be yes, until I'm about 80 years old. And the reason I say that is because statistically speaking, like, I'm only 34 years old. I've already detransitioned twice, really more than that, because in high school I'd go like back and forth. But if we just count those two major times, I mean, that's 2 times in 34 years. The average lifespan is what, like, I don't know, is it like in the 70s? I don't know. But even so, like, I still got another 2 under my belt. I mean, I don't want to detransition, but I never wanted to. But if it comes to my family's safety, our financial security, I will absolutely detransition.